GeekOut folks asked me to give a little bit longer version of this, and so I included some new stuff, new slides, and projects that we've worked on. So, in this, that idea of Geek, when I started looking at this, I said, okay, odd, non-mainstream computer, overly intellectual. Raise your hand if that sounds like you. Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. And so, if you choose to go down this path of being a geek and a dad, or a geek and a mom, and by the way, this book that I had up here, or the Geek Dad book, there's also, I think, a Geek Mom book. And if you haven't seen this, it's filled with ideas, and I'll share one that I did.
Alright, your job is
geekdad.com, and I'll share. I have some resources at the end to share with you.
When it's done,
so you will end up. What I have done is I've ended up with some neat places, doing some meetings, some meeting some neat people. So I'm going to start with this the trip I took a couple of years ago, a number of years ago, with my son Joseph, who's here, and a friend of ours. We drove up to Delaware, Maryland, for the World Champion Pumpkin Chunking Contest, where thousands of people, 30,000 people, will show up at a farm in Delaware, and at the end of at the end of October, beginning of November, when all the pumpkins are doing well, and it looks like this. There are every kind of conceivable device to launch a pumpkin, but the big rule is, and they have them in categories. So they have trebuchets, onagers, they have a theatrical division where they're really not trying to launch it far, just do it theatrically. And then there are divisions on air cannons. And these are the ones that get a lot of the press. The air cannons, and by the way, there's nothing that can be no explosive devices used to launch part of the thing. It's got to be mechanical, or they allow for the air cannons. And these air cannons are very technologically advanced. They are computer activated because you can't. These air tanks are taller than me, and you can't just release all of the air pressure at one time because you get what they call a pie, and that is the pumpkin just comes out as dust, right? And so they have to slowly let the air out over the length of this pipe, and they haven't been able to launch a pumpkin for a mile, but they're within feet of being able to launch a pumpkin a mile. So now these are very specialized pumpkins. They're white, and they are like rocks. So they're not an orange pumpkin. Now my favorite of all of the devices are the trebuchets. And this is a device that has won many times at the pumpkin chunking. It is called Yankee Siege, and it comes in. They have to put it together with a crane, and it lives up in the New England states. And here it is in action, and you can see the counterweight on the trebuchet. And a trebuchet they say is actually responsible for the demise of castles. Because it used to be you could build giant trebuchets, move them towards a castle, and launch stones that are hundreds of pounds from so far away that you couldn't shoot, an archer couldn't get to them. So these guys would come up to a castle and just pulverize the walls, and then just beat the castle up over the course of months. And then, so the thinking started was, well, why build a castle? Why build a castle if these people can come along? And of course, gunpowder would have eliminated that. So Joseph and I left, and we said someday we're going to build a trebuchet. So ours is a human-powered water balloon and apple launching trebuchet, and it will launch apples and water balloons. We have other things about that size, softballs, which actually aren't as good as water balloons because they don't have enough mass. But they will launch water balloons about 75 yards. And so this is one of the places this has taken us is we were discovered by the Leaf Festival, the Lake Arts Festival, and they said, would you bring your trebuchets to our festival and help kids have this experience of launching stuff? So of course we said yes. And so for the past couple of years, in fact, next weekend we're going to be at the Leaf Festival launching more water balloons, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds, buckets and buckets of water balloons. We had kids lined up. Yes. Will you be there? I hope you.
Maybe I'll when I have this. I'm doing some people in school and we're doing a concert.
Oh, awesome! Leaf in Schools and Streets. Yeah, that's great.
Maybe I'll get.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so we have lots of kids who show up, and one of the funny things is 2 weeks ago there was a Sunday where it poured rain. Not just raining, but it was pouring, and it was right during the time that I was supposed to be doing this, and I thought, no one's going to show up. And there was a line of kids waiting for us in the rain, wanting to launch water balloons, and I thought, this is great. So then the TEDx Katua asked us to come and share our trebuchets at that event. And this was held at Perry. Are you familiar with Perry? Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute. It is it was originally designed for the manned spaceflight missions, and so they have these radio satellites, telescopes, and it's a really cool place. And then after the manned spaceflight missions, the CIA took over to listen to satellites. And anyway, so now it's just used as an educational place. And they have these giant satellite dishes. And so we were asked, you can see us here, this is, I thought, a fun picture because we built a cardboard castle. Can you see it here in the distance? And it's sort of the cardboard castle next to this high-tech dish. So this is, we're doing this thing over here, and not part of TED is this gentleman. His name's Mr. Thurber Barker, and he's works at Perry now doing research. And during the Gemini manned spaceflight missions, the spaceflight missions that were before Apollo, which were to the moon, Gemini was just sending men up into space and seeing what happened. He actually worked at NASA, and he walked up and started looking at our trebuchet and said, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to build one of these for my grandkids. So here he is flinging apples. They actually asked us to shoot these things called deer apples, which were rotten apples. So he did a bunch of those. And this is a great bumper sticker that I think all of us should have. So how many of you have seen these play structures that are at Lowe's and Home Depot, that are more or less like rectangles or squares, and over time they always become parallelograms because they're just not strong enough, right? And a lot of them you wouldn't want to put an adult on. So I made the determination that we would build a big backyard play structure that was kid-proof and gravity-proof. So the long beams on this are 16 inches long, the tallest, and the reason being is 1 foot equals 1 inch in this, and because at Lowe's and Home Depot they sell these 16-foot long 4x6s, and then the lower base rails are 12 feet long. The idea was to be able to buy off-the-shelf lumber to build a really awesome play structure. So this is the result of that. And this is sort of the basic concept, is that I wanted to build something that I can add to later. And so all of these beams are straight off of the lot at Home Depot. And now the slide is from their play area. And now I do have a cargo net that I found at an Army surplus store. And then we started, so the idea was that to teach that everything that's created, this Nerf gun, this first existed in someone's imagination. So the idea here is that if we go back a slide, go from here, beginning to imagine it, and go to here to be able to go from imagination to actual creation. Then, you can see, if you look at this picture, I've got what I call outriggers that allow me to hang things on, like swings and climbing ropes and all kinds of other things. But you can see in this picture that I didn't even conceive of that. But if I go back one, you can see that I knew that I wanted to have something sticking out because I was pretty sure that it wouldn't flip over, but I wasn't exactly sure. So that's where I started putting these outriggers on and then putting my full weight on it, and it would not tilt. It just won't do it. Now, as a caveat, I did attach a zip line to the very pinnacle to the top, and my kids would go down the zip line from the pinnacle. And we had a long zip line one time, and I had a group of kids sitting on the adventure tower, and I had it actually in a different place. And a heavier kid went down the zip line, got to the midpoint where there's the most leverage, and it tilted the adventure tower, brought the leg up like 6 inches, and all the kids screamed. And the kid who was on the zip line pulley let go, thankfully, and so we quickly learned about leverage in that. Okay, I had mentioned this book, Geek Dad, and one of my favorite activities out of here was attaching a little still camera that I actually brought with me, and it turns out it also does video. So we went to the party supply store, and it turns out the regular party supply store, many of them sell these 3-foot diameter helium balloons, and they're only like $5 or $4 even for a large one. Now trying to get them home is a trick. But I thought in the party supply store that one balloon would lift this thing. And here's why. It's because we tested it. I tied the string to my camera, and it lifted it easily in the store. But I found out later that doing it outside is very different. You need more lift. So I went and bought another balloon. And so I pointed the camera down, tied a kite string to it, and at the school picnic, we videotaped what was going on at the picnic, and I had this thing hundreds of feet in the air, and it's such a cool, simple thing to do, and so I actually walked around with it like this, and because there was a slight breeze, I let this thing go way out there, and now what I want to do is, if I can avoid getting in trouble with the FAA, is let it out like 1,000 feet, like have not kite string, but fishing line and a fishing reel, and just like have like 4 balloons and send it way, way, way up. But I have to be okay with losing my camera. So sort of an advancement from that, we, in the fall, TEDx Asheville had a theme of the edge. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to go to my son's school and propose launching a weather balloon with a GoPro video camera to near space. So this is a weather balloon that costs like $120, and we bought a helium tank filled with helium, which, by the way, is hard. Getting helium is actually very hard because there's not a helium shortage, but the government is controlling helium, and they haven't figured out a way to not control it. It sounds kind of weird. But in order to fill this thing up, it took a tank, a 5-foot tall tank of 240 cubic feet of helium. And so I worked with these students to design a package to carry a GoPro video camera up to the edge of near space. And so this is a picture of just letting it go off. So do you know what's between the payload and the balloon? Do you know what that is? A parachute. So the idea is when the balloon pops and starts to descend, the parachute deploys. And so that's why it's in the middle there. And what we realized pretty quickly is we bought the wrong size parachute, the first one. So we had to buy a larger parachute because we did a test run and dropped it off, and it just went down like a rock. So this payload, by the way, is an off-the-shelf cooler from Ingles. That's all it is, and we modified it a little bit. And it had 100,000 feet at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. It's about 40 below zero. So we were wondering how that would impact the lens of the GoPro video camera. Turns out it wasn't that big a deal. We did put a little heat pack in there. I'm going to take a step back because this is Jeff Kluger. This is something I didn't mention in the Ignite talk. I didn't have time. But someone on our committee happens to know Jeff Kluger. And Jeff is the science and tech editor of Time magazine. And he is the one who wrote the book Apollo 13 that was later made into a movie with Tom Hanks, which is a great movie. So it was suggested to us that we get these, what I suggest is that we get these kids to do a Skype session with Jeff Kluger. So here, this is the group that I worked with at the school. And in this, on the little screen there, you can see Jeff Kluger, who spoke and did a Q&A session for 45 minutes. He was in New York City in his office at the time, and these students were asking about questions about space and travel. And it's Jeff Kluger suggests that it's not only a neat thing to do for us to explore space, but a critical thing for us to do. He actually gave a TED Talk on that. So I'm going to now back to the story. You can see Joseph over here with the boombox, and he's this is a photo that was taken, a screenshot that was taken from the balloon as it was taking off from West Asheville, and the Joseph's boombox is playing the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And what was fun is that all the people that came out to watch, and then the rest of us, they all left after the launch. But what we did is we tracked it, because there's 2 GPS units in it. One because we wanted to make sure we would get it back. So here's a picture of West Asheville. That's actually Route 191 that you see there, and this is pointing back towards sort of South Asheville-ish, or West Asheville, East Asheville, I'm sorry. And then here we are. This is a screen capture from the edge of space just before the balloon burst. And what happened is at the elevation we launched it, the balloon was about 6 feet in diameter that you saw. The balloon is designed to pop at 30 feet in diameter. So when it gets up at that elevation, the helium just expands. And what's really cool, I wish I had, you can see the video at my website, I should show you this. If we can get on the internet, I can show you. But the explosion is so violent that, because the distance between the payload and the camera is about this high. We had the balloon that far away from each other. But when that balloon pops, shreds of the latex come flying past the lens. That's how big the explosion was. And you can actually hear it. And so the balloons, the payload starts to go down. You can see it in the video. And here's where we messed up in our design. Our payload has dowels inside of it, and the gravity is not strong up here. So you see in the video that the payload, instead of falling straight to Earth, it actually slowly goes as it starts to fall into a cliff, and the shroud to the parachute gets fouled up, and these little dowels pieces. And so when you found it, I'll show you a picture, you'll be able to see it. This, by the way, is the tracking. In the lower left-hand corner here, what this means is that this was going faster than 65 miles per hour at that point. And at one point it was going 95 miles per hour. And that was one of the readings, and then it left. So it got up and it was moving fast. So then we went off looking for this thing, and you can see this is the camera, the GoPro camera on the inside. I want to go back to Jeff Kluger. So here's a cool story. The students Skyped with Jeff Kluger, the science and tech editor of Time. Well, as it turns out, he was going to be in the area here near Asheville. We convinced him to come to the school and talk with a group of students. So this was, I think, was this 2 classes, Joseph, 7th and 8th? 3 classes, all crammed into here, and he was there for maybe an hour. Is that right, Joseph? Yeah, an hour. So answering questions about space and space travel and space exploration, which was a pretty cool thing. So here's this guy, and he's talking about astronauts he's met. Nerf. Every, I think, geeky person needs to have something that has to do with Nerf. And this is a group that I started when my son, who's now 14, when he was about to turn 10, I called up a couple of friends of mine who also had 10-year-olds, and we said, let's create a father-son group, and we'll get together every month between now and the time they graduate high school. That's our goal.
And we've done all kinds of things together. We've gone backpacking, rock climbing, canoeing, whitewater rafting. Every 6 months we do a community service project. This month we're going to be driving down to Charleston, and we're renting tandem sea kayaks, and we're using these as a metaphor to talk about the father-son journey. And, you know, because the person in the back of the sea kayak is the person who operates the rudder. So we're going to switch places. But one of the things we've done is rent the YMCA, the downtown facility, or downtown and the one in South Asheville. And we have created these full court basketball capture the flag sessions. And so here we are. This is and here's what I wanted to share with you is that these and I'm wearing this is the getup I wear, and I have these Nerf darts, and I'm going to let Joseph shoot me here in a second as I'm talking. But if you put these darts in a half-inch piece of PVC pipe, I'm going to shoot my friend Ian. There we go. These things really fly well. And so I of course had to put camo on mine, and I have a little elastic string so I can. There we go. And then if you look at these this is actually one of the great Nerf guns that we've learned, because at a distance you want to be able to keep people away. I can shoot a dart about the length of a basketball court, but these you can this is good in case someone rushes you, because you can do this. Okay? But the problem is that it doesn't go far, right? Because if you have this in an open space and I have this, I'm going to get you. And if you get hit, this is what we wear. I made 2 different colors. This is felt, just simple felt. There was no sewing involved, just cutting. And I've got these ponchos, and I've since learned that I had to put a string around the waist, and I've got these little ties here. And Joseph, you gonna shoot me? You can take shots at me. Here you go. Oh, you got enough. So, and if you get hit one time, you are in jail, and you can get out of jail. But we have all of these rules, and let's see if Joseph can hit me. No. All right, that was not a good one. And then, so I'm gonna show you a couple of these. Oh, there you go. He just got me right here. Oh, there you go. Oh, got my shirt. That doesn't count. Oh! Nice. Oh! Nice. He's getting in there. So here, the 2 of us are defending an area, and you can see that you got to watch your shoulders here. And these are very aerobic. Let me tell you, when we play, it is you get a sweat going, and it is so much fun. And you can how about that game face right there? And so they built a little fort around their flag, but you see at a distance he's made himself vulnerable to somebody with one of these. And so what he'll do is pop up, and he's sort of like the last line of defense as people start rushing towards the flag. And the flag is just that bandana. So here we go. And some of the guys, like I don't like the guns necessarily because they're don't shoot as far. I much prefer the blowguns. So I like this photo because Jeremiah here is holding his bandana like it's the head of an enemy, right? It's like he's got it, and they won. And you can see George here, he's got a couple darts. He was coming out of jail. So I'm going to take one of the things that I like to, I think a maker, are you guys familiar? Raise your hand if you're familiar with the maker movement. All right, there's a few people here. So makers look at, I think, the world a different way and look at things and say, what could we do with this in a way that it wasn't intended? So we've had this thing. Does anybody know what this toy is called? It's a classic. It's an old one. You can still buy them.
But it's not. That was
well, and some people, it's made out of the same plastic as a big wheel. Remember the big wheel? It's like a tricycle thing. This is called a crazy car, but you use a K instead of a C to spell it. Crazy car. So Google that. They are so fun because they go 360 backwards, forwards. But here's what I saw. I saw the monitor in the Merrimack. You remember that? So I saw that thing, and I took a piece of cardboard and I attached it using zip ties. And this is my daughter, and Ian, this is in the parking lot of Francine Delaney. And this is actually after it's been beat up. I left it at the after-school program where my daughter goes, and the kids just, I wanted to see how tough it was. But I spray painted it, and I made it into a device where someone could drive it and shoot from it. And that's why, so we used it in the game, right? So this person could ride up, and other players were hiding behind it, and they could also shoot out. Now, it was impractical. You could not reach out and get the flag. It was impractical for that. But it was great as an assault vehicle and as a mobile unit to hide behind.
A tank.
It was a tank. And I call it the NAV, the Nerf Assault Vehicle. So everything's got to have a name, and I have the cool face on there. Yes?
So you could shoot through those little holes in it?
You could shoot through the holes. And in the future, one of the things I want to do is have two of these on the side and be able to operate it like this. And so you rotate it, but the problem with this, see, here's the cool thing. This only holds 10, and it takes a while to load, and you got to pump it up. And so while that person is doing that, I'm able to use this all day. So all right, so that is the Nerf assault vehicle. And so we're coming to an end here, and this is the hovercraft that we were using earlier in the back of the room. This is, we were over in a sort of a warehouse area that my friends have, and my daughter, who has been interested in flight for a while, I said, what if we built a hovercraft? So here we are actually working on this, and I got these plans from the internet. And there's several different plans, and if you go to my site, there's a link to the actual. There's a video of this, of how we built it, and of this thing in motion. And here we are actually using this, and this is actually the moment where we turned it on for the first time, wondering if it would actually work. I spent 2 hours, and I had my daughter there and a friend of hers. And lo and behold, it worked. It was beautiful. It goes across the floor like it's on ice. And so as we wrap up here, I'm going to say this, is that the reason I like doing the Geek Dad stuff is because of this piece right here. After we were at the gym the next day, after playing with the hovercraft, the next day my daughter came up to me and gave me this card. And that's what I think is important about being a Geek Dad, is just doing fun stuff. So I have some resources for you, and if these are some of the things that are for you to write down, or I'm going to have them on my website, or take a picture of them. But one of the things I want to encourage you to do, my friend Ian Rydell is here, and Ian and I, Ian at 1 o'clock, is it?
1 o'clock and 2 o'clock.
1 o'clock in this room?
No. KidsCon is happening across the Skyway by registration.
Okay.
There's a Skyway tunnel that you can see if you look out one of the windows.
Yes.
Skyway tunnel goes across, and then you'll take a right turn into a round room.
Okay.
And that's the KidsCon.
And the reason we're doing that is I actually met Ian because of Ignite Asheville. Ian gave an award-winning presentation, not this past February, but the one before that. And his was on this whole idea of technology and teaching. And so if you'd like, we have a sponsor. Brett, do we know who the sponsor is for this event?
It's an anonymous sponsor.
An anonymous sponsor. So we have an anonymous sponsor who has provided the supplies so that you and your kids can come in and build an electronic, a multi-use electronic experimentation kit. And Ian,
kind of like an all-in-one kind of.
All-in-one, and you get to take it home and keep it, and continue playing with it. So we have a found sponsor who provided all the supplies. Ian is volunteering today to teach it, who goes out around Asheville and Buncombe County to schools, teaching kids how to use technology. and does robotics and Arduino. My son has taken an Arduino programming class with him. And I will say that you'll see that one of the links here is for Maker Faire. And there is a Maker Faire coming up that I think that you love. I'm going to miss it because I'm going to be at a relative's birthday party. But the Maker Faire is going to be at Adventure in Columbia, South Carolina. If you're familiar with Adventure, it's a hands-on children's museum. And so now there's a number of reasons to go. But it's the Maker Faire, the worldwide Maker Faire, is happening in San Francisco, I think next weekend, Leaf Weekend, and it is a huge, it's like the GeekOut on steroids craziness. But it is an awesome event. I wish I was there in San Francisco. They also do one, they started one in New York City, and it happens in the fall. And you're welcome to come up and take a look at the Geek Dad book. And I mentioned the book Unboard, the unboard.net. You can read about that. Ashbots.org. That is the First Robotics for Asheville, and they have the high school group and they have a younger kids group. And then we also have what's forming in Asheville, a maker space community. There's a maker community and a maker space, and that is a space where we're working on getting a 3D printer, laser printer, or laser cutter, and tools to do stuff with technology. So, and we're hoping to include kids. And Asheville High School has got the seeds of a maker community or a maker space in Asheville High School. So Ian and I are helping with that, along with John Moody, who is a high school teacher there. And middle school students are invited too.
IRL programs started coming.
Yep.
I've been talking with John Moody about opening it up to homeschool communities as
There
well.
you go.
And we're going to try and get Delaney on the map with it soon. So
Yeah.
I guess I would say if you think you got students at a school or a schooling group that would be interested, to get in touch with Tom or myself about becoming a part of it next academic year. We're wrapping things up now. It's only going to be a couple more of those makerspace meetings.
Yeah, but we have great dreams for that. So, any questions or comments or what you'd like to see next, or what maybe you could share what you're working on as a geek dad or geek mom or geek female or male? Yes.
What do you think is what projects are interesting you for like the future? Do you have your eyes on any projects at the moment that you've been dreaming about?
Well, I have one. So I have one that is sort of a pinnacle dream, a pinnacle project for me, and that would be to build. First, it was a hovercraft. I've always, since I was science. What was that? Mechanics. What was it? Science.
Popular mechanics.
Popular mechanics, popular science at the back when I was a kid. They always had the plans for the hovercrafts. I always wanted to make a full-size hovercraft that had several motors on it. Well, now what I'd like to do is you can have that and what's called a ground effect vehicle. Does anybody know what a ground effect vehicle is? They are awesome. They take it with. There's this thing called surface effect or ground effect, and you've probably seen it at the beach with birds, particularly pelicans, when they're flying really close to the water and it seems like they don't flap their wings forever. Have you ever noticed that in pelicans? And other birds will do it, but they're only like, this far off the water. And that is because of something called surface effect or ground effect. And it's an unusual thing that planes, it happens to planes too, when they're taking off, it takes less, there's a certain amount of energy that gets you to go off the ground, but then there's all of a sudden a lot more energy in order to get free of what's called surface effect or ground effect, but it requires very little energy to get off a certain distance. But here's the cool thing. It takes short wings and not much power to do it, and if you add this to a hovercraft, you can actually start to fly, but you're only 3 to 5 feet off the ground. And the cool thing is the FAA says you're not a plane. So that is a big deal, because if you're not a plane, you're not regulated like a plane. And if you're regulated like a plane, there's all these rules. But the cool thing is if you're flying across water or flying across ground, you can go faster without the chop, that the water has, or brush or rocks or anything like that. So you can just fly and then go, throttle back down with blast. So that's my dream. but then I also want to make a backyard. You know those? Have you ever been to the mall where you're in a harness and you have the bungee cords and you jump up and down?
Oh yeah.
So my adventure tower, one of the projects I want to work on this summer is having 2 arms come out and having my own set of bungee cords because I have climbing harnesses and attach them, and I have a trampoline and I want to make my own harnessed thing. And so now the trick is how can we make that safely? So that's going to be one, and then there are others. I'm trying to remember. I've got a workbench that's piled high with different projects. I do want to make a smaller version of my kid powered trebuchet so 1st and 2nd graders can use it. Because right now it helps if you're at least in 5th grade. But what's interesting is there's plenty of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders that want to fling water balloons. Those are mine anyway. Yes. Yeah, that would be you. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody here have a project that you're working on that you would like to see come to fruition, that you dream about? You got to have one. What is yours?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's illegal.
You got it.
Yeah.
Top secret.
Top secret.
You wouldn't want to take your idea?
I was up at a makerspace that was amazing in Reston, Virginia called Nova Labs. And one of the guys had just completed building his own quadricopter. It was big. It was like this big. And he said his is powerful enough to fly higher than he can even see, which is dangerous because he's near Dulles Airport. And he has made his so that he can plug it in with a USB to his computer and use Google Maps to set waypoints. And it has a GPS unit on it, so it can be autonomous and fly off on its own with no control of his and come back. So it's pretty amazing what you can do. And even the near space balloon thing with an Android app, I'm finding out, if you're willing to send your phone up, it will take all kinds of data like acceleration, temperature, and all kinds of other data, and then you can, when it comes down, you can plug it in, get it, and start to play around with it. So there's cool things like that. We do want to do another near space balloon launch next year. All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate your being here, and we hopefully we'll see you.